Two. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Jedi Hill. Today's special guest has over 40 years experience in the real estate. He runs the JD Real Estate Group and has a broker through eXp Commercial. He specializes in mobile home parks, RV parks, and self-storage, which as the economy crashes, is going to be great because people are trying to downgrade. So gives a little more stability, a little more recession-proof as we come in. Thank you so much for being on today there, James Davis.
Thank you, Jed. I call my asset classes, again, I'm with a company called eXp Commercial. They have a mentor-mentee program. I have a couple of mentees working for me, and I call my asset classes the cash cows. You know, if you think about, everybody wants to get in multifamily, and it's much easier to get into my asset classes from a syndication standpoint or joint venture standpoint, but it's also a little bit more lucrative. For example, I have a self-storage I've had for 6 years, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing for the first 4. I figured it out, right? I was at 55% occupancy and I went to 95% occupancy in 6 months because it's a digital game, right? You got to know how to use Google, you got to know how to use Facebook, and et cetera, et cetera. So I had a lady that told me how to do that. And I really still don't know how to do it. I just gave that information to my assistant, and it's done.
Who, not
right?
how, yes.
That's right. That's right. You read that book too. It's a great book. Anyway, that's by Ben Hardy. Anyway, so and I had a partner. I paid $1 million for that property. I had to put 100,000 into it, and my partner put in 200,000. And I could have sold it when my occupancy was at 25% for $600,000, taking a hit for $400,000. And he even had us. My partner was in the multifamily business, to be quite frank with you, and he never had any money, so I had to support this thing, and I was feeding it $5,000 a month negative, and then it became $2,000 a month negative, and then that was when I was at 55%, and then I got to 95%, and I was bringing in money, bringing in cash, right? So, and I had an extra 3.5 acres. I do what's called a covered land play and a commercial BRRRR. I think everybody, 4 R's, right? Anyway, so
The BRRRR.
BRRRR, it ain't cold out here in Austin anyway. So
well, and hold on, Joe, just for James, because not everybody's going to know all these acronyms. So the BRRRR is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and a lot of people say repeat.
Right. And the commercial land play, as the name implies, covered land play is that if you have a mortgage, your current income stream should cover the mortgage, and then you have some upside. There's 2 ways that I can think of doing a commercial covered land play. I'm sorry, I keep missing my C's up, right? Covered land play is, one is there's extra land, and another is just plain higher and better use may work. But another prime example, again, being in the mobile home park business, a lot of people are mom and pops, right? And there was a guy, he was a young, spry, 92-year-old dude. He lived in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and he had built the park himself probably 40 years ago. And he was renting the spaces, 25 spaces, for $225, and the market rent was $425. You don't want to go in there and bust them up and kick them all out and start renting them for $425. You got to spruce them up a little bit, put a gate around them, put some asphalt on the road, clean up the place. And I could have picked that property up. The problem with picking that property up was the banks thought they were ugly. So you need to find some syndication, some private money aspects, right? Picked it up for could have picked it up for $800 or $850,000, and I could have added $750,000 to the value by just jacking the rent up from $225 even to just $400. And it costs $6,000 to move a mobile home park. So a mobile home is got a kind of a misnomer, right? And so you just need to be.
Most of them don't have the money to move, so they just.
That's right. And actually, some of them, if they get to be, so old, they may fall apart when they get, like a 70s vintage. I won't fall apart and you won't fall apart. We're probably 70s vintage or a little bit before 70s for myself. They will they fall apart, right? So you can't even move them. But
Mhm.
anyway, that's what I call a covered land play. Okay, so my covered land play was there and I paid $1 million for it. I could have sold it for 600 or 700,000. Never, everybody that called me up wanted a deal. They wanted a great deal, right? So anyway, the bottom line is on that that property is when I filled it up, I had the extra 3.5 acres and I had said, well, hey, let's make some money with it. Instead of making 200 a month, let's make a lot of money per month. You know, I think I'll get into the data. It's going to make 20,000 a month when completed, right? So go from 200 to 20,000. That's 100x, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. So anyway, when I was at 95%, I had the extra 3.5 acres. I got an appraisal done, and the extra NOI appraised out at $1.7 million, and then the extra 3 acres brought it to $3.2 million. The appraisal was probably a little bit generous on the land value, but I didn't complain, right? So I had
Right, you actually got a good appraisal for once.
Yeah, I did. I can tell you about another good appraisal that I got on my property in Fredericksburg at the short-term rental, but we may or may not have time to do that. But anyway, so I had a $3.2 million value, and I got a 75% loan to value, which gave me $2.4 million to loan, right, to borrow. So I had a $600,000 loan to pay off from my original loan because we got 30% down. So, and it was a 20-year mortgage. So it went down fairly rapidly. So when I did the analysis, I said I could do the whole project for $1.4 million. But so I have $400,000 to play with there between 2 and 2.4 million, which gives me a good bit of
Pushing.
a margin there, right? So, and I may use you know, a couple 100,000 of that. I have phase 1 completed, but anyway, the conservative appraisal was $5.4 million, right? And I think I can make it at $6 million. It depends, you know, because the market's changed a lot since I got my mortgage back in October. I got a floater and I started at 5.5 and now I'm at 7.
That's actually pretty good. That's actually a pretty good rate. That's lower than what
it's interest only. It's interest only, and the bank was a company called Choice Bank. They're out of North Dakota. The office that I dealt with was in Phoenix, and it's some kind of, I don't know. It's some kind of Iowa Fed or Indiana Fed or something like that. But anyway, it's a fairly good rate, and it's interest only, and I have that loan for 2 years. So I have finished phase 1, and I still need to fill it up. I'm at 60% occupancy now, and I'm already making, I don't know, $8,000 to $9,000 positive cash flow. And whenever it gets to be 95% occupancy, 90 to 95% occupancy, you always never want to be full. Never want to be full because you want to press the price, right? Mm-hmm. And so it will get me, you know, $12,000 to $15,000, and that's I'm the lazy guy from the self-storage standpoint. I put in covered RV and enclosed RVs. It's in College Station. You can use it for boats, but there's mostly RVs there, right? And so people, when they have their RVs, they bought that during COVID, and they spent $200,000 for those RVs. They got to have a place to park them. And also the other nice thing about where I am, I'm about 8 miles south of Texas A&M University, Kyle Field, and the subdivisions are new there. They are on water line and a septic, so they're third of an acre. There's plenty of room to put an RV in there. There's also plenty of room to put a traditional little self-storage that you'd buy from Home Depot. But the HOA says no, you can't do that, right? So anyway, so I have best of both worlds, and they have all these fancy demographic studies and I just said, hey, there's an elementary within 2 or 3 miles. Boom, I'm doing it, right? So there is nothing wrong with doing the demographic studies, but I wasn't aware of. I've learned a lot about this stuff. There's a email site and a website called 3 Mile Domination, which is where the self-storage industry tends to go. But then there is a 20-mile radius that's more used for an RV park storage, right? That's just an RV, not the RV park. You're just parking an RV in there. You spent a couple $100,000. You got to make sure it doesn't get rained on.
That's actually pretty interesting that like your main self-storage, you're going to get almost all your customers within a little itty bitty 3 mile radius. So you need to know how many people are in that area.
Right.
And then the RV storage a little bit more. And it's fascinating, all the details of the different things for these, like for boats.
Yeah, and there's really so many different subsets you could do there. I mean, you have climate controlled self-storage, non-climate controlled self-storage. You have open air parking, similar to Walmart or Target or whatever, but you don't even have to have concrete there, right? Then you have 3 variations of a covered RV storage. You have a canopy, which as the name implies, it's like a, just one side is covered. Then you have a covered RV storage, which you've got 10 units there, and you've got covered on 3 sides and on the top. And then you have the one that's very easy to explain. It's enclosed, right? So you have 4 sides enclosed, and you have a door, a 12-foot by 12-foot door, and those it's amazing. Here's some facts on you for ROI here, guys. Is that I'm getting, with electric, I'm getting $215 for a covered RV spot, and with electric enclosed, I'm getting $3 1/4. It's $110 times 12. What is that? It's $1,300 to $1,400 annually, right? And it costs me
per door.
Yeah, that's right. And it cost me $5,000 extra. $1,300 divided by 5,000. That's
so you
pretty
recovered in 3.5 years or so. That is not a bad ROI.
Not a bad ROI. And it seems, I don't know what the heck the economy is going to do, and I didn't know then either, right? So I put a plan together. The covered RV storages that I put there before, they were 12.5 feet apart. So you had one that was 12.5 feet, another 12.5 feet, two would go there, and you'd have a piece of metal purling there, right? So I made the decision to make him 15 feet apart, because I can make them both ways, right? So originally I put in 30 new RV spots, right? And I was going to make 25 covered and 5 enclosed, but the demand for enclosed is so much, I'm actually getting 6 more. I'm going to have 10 total enclosed self-storages completed by this week, and they should be filled in 2 to 3 weeks. My associate, she runs the joint, and actually, I'm going to tell you what, guys, you don't need to have anybody on site. She actually lived in Tel Aviv, Israel. That's a long way from Austin, our College Station, for 9 months, and it ran fine because it's all automatic. Not much can break. You have to have somebody to mow the grass, and you have to have somebody to do what's called a lock check. The lock check is, as the name implies, okay, 1 and 2 are taken and 3 is vacant according to the software, which is all electronic. But there's a lock on 3. I go, oh my gosh, Jedi's hacked me, So you have to make sure that those numbers correlate. And I think there's actually some newer tools that are available that you can do a lock check electronically. I know they have.
The digital locks are really cool because we're getting very big in the Airbnbs, and even apartment complexes now are all going to digital. So it's like
I have a digital lock on my STR, short-term rental, but we're talking about a lockout lock. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's getting really cool where the tech's going on this.
Yeah,
and this makes it much more hands-off for the owners.
Yes. Yes, yes. The locks they have made by Da Vinci's, that are $9 or whatever, you put a code on them, and when they go pay their bills, you tell them what the code is, and they take it off and they put it back in the building, or they wherever. I have a building that I was forced to buy by a company called U-Haul. They're crooks. Anyway, they said, hey, we'll put you some U-Hauls out here and we'll rent them for you. And every time that I got a call, which was very rare, they said, well, come down to the home office here. We got more material here. So they crooked me there, and they also made me have somebody work 40 hours a week at those days it was $10 an hour. So I had to make $1,800 in billings before I ever broke even. So but I have the building there, and it's only used for storing my computer equipment now. I'm in phase 2. I'm planning on putting some climate controlled self-storage, so I may just put the computer equipment in there and sell the building, right? I may lose a little money on the building, but it's okay. The other thing to note about self-storage, and this is still pretty true for all the other disciplines as well, is I have a gate, and I could say, okay, Jedi, you're number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And whenever you punch in 1, 2, 3, 4, a picture is going to come up, and it's going to say, hey, there's Jedi, right? Good. And so that's when you go in the gate, and there's cameras all over the place as well. But the thing that you can find out is, okay, somebody punch in 1, 2, 3, 4, and they cause some problems. You go back and look at that picture. It's not Jedi, it's Jedi's girlfriend or whatever. You know what I mean? Or whatever, or or maybe somebody has hacked Jedi's number, right? So anyway, and I did have some problems before I put in all of the cameras. These guys would come out at 11 o'clock at night. There is some validity to just say shut it down after 10 o'clock and open it up, at 6 o'clock in the morning. You can do that with the software. And I don't know what they were doing. They were selling meth or something. I don't know exactly what they were doing, but they got in trouble, and we had the police come out. But anyway, that's the story on my self-storage. And I have 2 other properties that I'm doing similar, conceptually similar, but they're different type properties. One's a self-storage one's a short-term rental in Fredericksburg, Texas, and the other is a small mobile home park now that I'm going to turn into a 32-unit tiny home park.
Nice.
And they all are same concept. And I don't know. I've done a lot of these covered land plays with a commercial burr, even before burr was around, right? For example, I had a place in Rudy's Barbecue, right by the mall in Austin, right behind it, Barton Creek Mall, and it was 5 acres, and I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was 5 acres, $2,500 mortgage, $450 I paid for it. Now it's worth $3 million. So I wish I would have just still been waiting on. This was a long time ago. So,
as a numbers guy, numbers are great for people, but we don't want to confuse the audience too much.
Let's talk about some other stuff.
But
Go ahead.
You bring in some really good points here, because we're talking about freedom, and yes, the real estate gives you financial freedom, but you're getting the time freedom through the digitalization and the robotics, that you don't need as many employees to do this stuff, which little more outgo at the beginning for all the cameras and equipment and everything, but it's going to save you huge money down the road.
Yeah. It's the ROI, and actually, I give generous bonuses, and I'm also giving my associate 10% ownership of the self-storage. So she's going to make $400,000 to $500,000. Okay, she's 32 years old, lives with 3 other people in Austin, so it's a lot of money for her. And she wants to use a product that is even more modern and automated. I don't know, Swivel or something like that, but it's got bots. It's got, it does everything for you. But the key is he's got a button that says interrupt. I need to talk to somebody, right? You know, the
Mhm.
problem with a lot of these things is they're so automated. Everybody has a call center typically with a self-storage because people they don't want to staff their office 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Mhm.
And I had a call center. I don't remember the name of it, and it's not important. But I drove out to College Station. It's a 2-hour drive on a Saturday afternoon. I was driving back, and I said, I'm going to see what this call center has to say for me about my rentals. It took me 10 minutes for them to get with me. How long are you going to wait for somebody that's not going to call you in 10 minutes? Boom. 1.5 minutes is about all somebody's going to wait. All right. So
If that long, especially
yeah,
with the
yeah,
attention
20
span of
wait,
8
yeah.
seconds
yeah, well, actually the
or
attention
7
span of
seconds
it,
rather.
oh yeah, the attention span of a fish is 9 seconds, and attention span from a human is 8, right? Or 7 now. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So
At least for
anyway,
these millennials and Generation Z, yeah.
yeah, right. I'm a baby boomer, so I can last for 15 seconds. But anyway, so we're looking at that, and you know, there are some other tools that are available. I haven't really looked at them or confirmed or gone into and vetted them properly, but there are some more sophisticated tools using AI to get you more tenants in the place. For example, whenever I was going from 55% to 95%, I gave my associate a budget of $100 a week. Every $100 I spent, I got 3 tenants, right? And the tenant's going to stay for about a year, 11 months. So we're going to, so the bottom line is for every $100, I get $3,000 because it's 100 times 3 times 10, right? And she went to Mexico one week, and I always say, hey, I'm if it's making money, I'll throw money at it. I mean, 100 to $300, $3,000. Well, I already made it, right? So
Right.
she went to Mexico one week, and I said, what happened? She goes, well, you only gave me $300. But anyway, that's kind of a funny story, but I think she's learned that now. And so she wants to totally modernize the self-storage, and I have no problems with that. There's a gentleman named Bob Vanebass. He's one of my mentors. He has about 1 million square feet of self-storage. And
That's a pretty significant amount of
That's
square
a
foot.
bunch.
People
That's
do
a bunch.
not realize 1 million square feet. We have the IX Center for the indoor amusement park. So you can fit an entire amusement park inside of a 1 million square foot building.
well, Amazon has lots of 1 million square foot buildings, but they're huge, as you can imagine. So yeah, and he runs his properties are run different than mine, but you know, everybody has their own choice. And you know, I still talk to Bob, he still talks to me, and we have a good time together. But anyway, shit, I don't remember. Maybe I've got Alzheimer's in there. What's the next question, Jedi?
Well, no, you did good. I really like talking about, you know, you were trying to automate things so you can get more freedom.
Yeah, I will say that whenever I do my tiny home park in Arkansas, same thing will happen. There are totally automated systems for RV parks, right? And we're talking about Friday, Saturday kind of stays, right? Versus my strategy is to run an RV park very similar to a mobile home park. And I believe that you have much less hassle and you get almost as much income, right? So, and there's a tiny home park, which we can call it. It's a park model RV park in Lowell, Arkansas, in Rogers, Arkansas. My park is in Lowell, Arkansas, and they're in Northwest Arkansas, both between Fayetteville and Bentonville. And he books them. He's got a retirement community there. He's got a very skinny lot. It's got a electric pole on the top. So he probably stole the property because there's not much you can use it for, right? It's probably 90 feet wide by, I don't know, 600 feet deep. And he's got 25 units on there. And he's got these park model RVs there. He's got skirting. They're there. They are there for the count, right? And that's always the way that I evaluate a park myself. But the thing about an RV park that's different than a self-storage is that there are many, many more cost centers, right? You know, because again, before we got on recording, if you have a 2,000 square foot house and you're downgrading to a 1,000 square foot house, whether it be a regular house or a tiny home, you got some precious junk you got to keep. So you throw self-storage there, and maybe even have your RV there that is a couple $100,000. So maybe you can put some covered RV spots in there. The other thing you want to do is, as we talked a little bit before, is you want to provide these guys a good product, which is energy efficient and inexpensive. And I think Jedi has one of those, and we can talk about that a little bit later. Or Jedi has his own little session there. But anyway, and the other thing that the feds are offering, it's called Inflation Reduction Act. And I think that's the biggest.
Isn't that the Inflation Act or something?
Yeah. You got it.
What they say it's going to do?
You got it. We might,
with the exception of the Restrict Act. That's the first time I think they said the actual name.
Yeah. We might piss off some liberals, but anyway, the Inflation Reduction Act will give you 40% off of solar. Okay, and I can give you some numbers on that. On a large RV park I was looking at in Lake Charles, $1.5 million for this solar. You get 40% credit, which gets you down to $900,000, and the electric bill was $175,000. So let's say you only take $120,000 of them. So you got $120,000 that, and if you divide that by 10 cap, you just made $1.2 million on a $900,000 investment, which is higher than a 10 cap, right?
Which is not bad, because you can feed the electric right back into the grid.
Yeah,
and if you're doing tiny homes, you can do it the same way.
Yeah, most RV parks are all bills paid, right? So you can either say, hey, I'm raising, you know, and the park that I'm talking about was in Lake Charles, and they were at $475 with no bills paid and $525 with all bills paid. So you could get $50 extra right off the top, and you're not spending any money, right? Well, you're spending money, but it's
right. You're recouping some of that.
Yeah, and it's a tax credit. It's not a tax break, right? If you're in the 37% bracket, you still get 100%, right? And then there's some other tools that you guys are probably familiar with: cost segregation, bonus depreciation. We don't need to get into that, but it almost pays for itself very, very easily.
Well, and I'm really cool with this, because myself, I'm looking more into the marinas and stuff, which is kind of like your RV park on the water, and trying to get how we can automate the RV park, or not the marina. So, you know, they come into their own boats and everything and just make it as automated as possible after we get it set up right.
Yeah, the marina could, you know, I have a property that I'm looking at with one of my mentees. It's in Beaufort, North Carolina. There's one in South Carolina as well, right? Beaufort, popular name there. Anyway, it's a marina, and maybe 8 or 9 acres are used as an RV park, but then it's got 8 or 9 acres in the back. But you know, my play is on that. It's a covered land play with a burr, commercial burr, but I want to automate everything. I have a double E degree, and I have said before, even before all this Chat GPT and all the automation has come out, is that an engineer, and I was a quality and reliability engineer. I knew nothing about design. I just had the 4-year degree with that, and I did a bunch of reliability physics and all that kind of crazy stuff. And an engineer can do whatever you ask him to. You just have to ask him to do it for the right price, right? And I will tell you that I had a property in Costa Rica. I was crazy enough to go down there and buy a coffee farm at one time. And that was, I don't know, my first and worst real estate investment. That was a long time ago, 82. So 40 years ago.
The year I was born, yeah. 41 years ago.
Maybe it was I don't know. It was probably 92, 30 years ago. So you were 10 years old, right? So anyway, and I saw a guy physically opening up a gate. And you probably never saw anyone open up a gate in the US, right? Because it's always been automated, right? Maybe not.
I'm just old enough because I grew up in the country. So like
Okay.
where I grew up, it's like how it was back in the 1950s. We still have horse and buggies out here for all the Amish.
Well, you had to open your own damn gate though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, and these people that think they're going to make $15 at McDonald's, they're already getting blown out of the water, right?
Yeah. Fort Worth just opened one. There was already one in Denver that's completely automated, from everything from the cooking to the ordering to the handing it out the window.
Yeah. One of my buddies, I worked with him. He was the engineer's engineer, right? He worked for a startup, and he developed a coffee thing. There's one in Bergstrom in Mueller Airport in Austin. Basically, you could go in there and tell them you want a Jedi Hill #1, and it'll spit out exactly what you want, and down to, I want a quarter of a teaspoon of sugar or whatever, right? And it's totally automated. So it takes the place of people that can't justify having one of those $6 or Starbucks. I'm going to call them $6 because that's really what they are. They're a ripoff. But and he was given the charter to do it, and he did it. And he unfortunately he died. He passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. But he did it, right? Somebody told him to do it, right? And he did it for the right price.
So you got baristas, you got cooks,
Yes.
like the amount of things. Like I've seen the Flippy the robot for the burgers. I've seen ones that even make pizza now. Like,
Well,
automation's
I'm not gonna need my yard man pretty soon, am I?
They have actually. I've seen some of the testing
I've
and the
seen 'em.
prototypes for those.
Yeah. So we've kind of digressed, but we've covered a lot of activity. You have any other specific questions you want to ask me about RV parks or mobile home parks or self-storage?
Well, one little thought here. I'm for an RV park. You were talking about your distance and that. On an 8-9 acres, about how many RVs you think you can fit on one, so people can see that idea.
It depends on the water and sewer situation and the individual county that you're with. I know in Texas it's kind of crazy, and it's probably, and you're in Ohio, it's probably goofy there as well. But if you're using if you have city water and city sewer, probably 12 an acre. And if you have city water and a septic system, 8 to 10 an acre, if the county or the jurisdiction is amenable. For example, I live in Austin. It's Travis County. They have an ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction, of 2 acre and 5 acre extraterritorial jurisdiction. I was looking at a park out there, actually with Paul, and the numbers where you can put 1 unit for every 2 acres, which is crazy, right?
Oh, that's
You should be able to use a quarter or half an
family.
acre, right? You should be able to get a quarter or half acre should be all you need, because you have to have some separation between the septic field and the, well, I'm even talking about even a well, right? But anyway, but the thing is, you can do, I don't remember the exact numbers, but you could do a commercial septic and a commercial septic, and you could get 100 per lot, right? So it's the delineation of the rules, but you could do that on a 3 acre parcel, but is it worth $50,000 in 6 months of your time? The answer to that is no, of course. So Paul and Peter and I were looking at that one, right? But anyway, so you have to understand all the rules, but the rule of thumb is 8 to 12 RVs an acre. And for a mobile home, 6 to 10. And for a climate controlled self-storage, you're going to put, or regular self-storage, you're going to put 13 to 15,000 square feet per acre. So that's about 1/3. And the climate controlled the covered self-storage is going to be 100 feet by 150 feet for every 10. That gives you plenty of space to run the RVs through there. So
Well,
there's
and
your
that's-
numbers.
There you go. And that shows the density that you can do with
Right.
the RVs, the mobile home parks and self-storage compared to, you know, like you do that single family home with septic, it's got to be 2 acres, or, you know, even in the city, you can only get down to about a quarter or an eighth acre lot for the single family homes.
Right, if you
In most
have
areas.
if you have any septic or wells, forget it, right? But even a septic, you're gonna have to be a quarter acre probably, right? Maybe a little less than that. I mean, in Austin they have some crazy rules, but I think the smallest size lot they have, even with the water and sewer, is 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. So yeah, I actually live in a detached condo subdivision in Austin, and my lot is not too much different than a mobile home lot. It's 60 feet by 100, you know, a little bit larger, but or hell, it's not even 100. It's 60 by 80, right? A little bit different ratio than you would do for a mobile home park, a mobile home lot, but still very similar in size, 4,800 square feet. You'd make it 90 by 50, 4,500 square feet versus 60 by 80, right? Very close. But anyway, and I quite frankly, I would rather live in the tiny home park because I'm 6 feet from the next guy, and I'm about 75 feet across from the other guy. We need to move, but that's a personal thing.
I tell you, my grandpa's rule was like, if you could see your neighbors through the rifle scope, they live too close. But that was out in the country in West Virginia. So,
well, you know, I have a dog, and we can actually watch the big screen TV on a diagonal, you know, and I don't know what they're watching, but you can see what's moving there, right? And I don't like that at all. Neither does my dog Lola. So anyway.
So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, James?
Okay, my phone number is 512-796-6663. That is also my WhatsApp number because I'm not fancy enough to delineate that customer base. And I've only got 3 or 4 people that are on my WhatsApp, and some of them are actually from California or whatever. The email is james.davis@expcommercial.com. That's my that's my agency email. And then I have another email that is evergreen. It's going to be around forever, even if I switch companies or whatever. I worked at KW for a while, but EXP is a great company to work for. But anyway, the other one is jdavis@jd-realestategroup.com.
There you go. Well, thank
All
you
right.
so much for being on there, James. It was a pleasure to talk about the automation. And everybody make sure you like and subscribe for more different things on how we can develop our freedom, whether it's time, financial, or whatever. This is Jedi signing off.